After Germanwings Flight 9525 vanished from radar and slammed into the Alps, investigators from both Germany and France launched a full-scale inquiry into the cause of the crash. The immediate priority was locating the two black boxes. While they waited, investigators first reviewed weather reports for the airspace where the incident occurred. Conditions were completely normal with no flight hazards of any kind, effectively ruling out weather as a factor. At the time, France was already on edge. A series of terrorist attacks in Paris in 2015 had killed 17 people, leaving the public deeply shaken. So in the early hours after the crash, many people's first instinct was to ask, had Flight 9525 been taken down by a bomb? Investigators pulled the radar data and analyzed it carefully, and what they found was startling. The aircraft had descended in a perfectly straight, controlled path the entire time, with no signs of loss of control whatsoever. And when they examined the wreckage, there was no trace of any explosive device. That ruled out a terrorist attack. Investigators then spoke with air traffic control and got a critical piece of information. For reasons unknown, the flight crew had gone completely silent and never responded to a single radio call throughout the entire incident. That was deeply unusual. Even more puzzling was the question of why a commercial airliner would deliberately fly itself straight into the Alps. At that point, one investigator floated the theory of cabin depressurization. The plane had been cruising at 38,000 feet. At that altitude, a sudden loss of pressure could render a pilot completely incapacitated within just 10 to 15 seconds. That would certainly explain why air traffic control got no response no matter how many times they called. But when investigators combed through the aircraft's maintenance records, they confirmed the plane had been in excellent condition before departure, fully airworthy, with nothing out of the ordinary flagged anywhere in its history. Just as the investigation seemed to be hitting a wall, search teams delivered a major breakthrough. They had found the cockpit voice recorder. The device was badly damaged on the outside, but French lab technicians were able to restore it, and by the next day, they had successfully extracted the audio from inside the cockpit. What they heard made everyone's blood run cold. The recording revealed that the crew had encountered no mechanical failures or emergencies of any kind. The atmosphere in the cockpit was calm and unremarkable, but 27 minutes after takeoff, the co-pilot suddenly spoke up, suggesting to the captain that if he needed to use the restroom, now was a good time. The captain agreed, got up, and left. And then came the sound of the cockpit door clicking shut. From that moment on, the cockpit fell into an eerie, suffocating silence, leaving the co-pilot completely alone. And it was from that exact moment that the plane began its slow, unexplained descent. 4 full minutes went by and the cockpit remained absolutely still. The microphone even picked up the co-pilot's calm, steady breathing, which led investigators to firmly rule out cabin depressurization. Then the recording captured Marseille air traffic control attempting to make contact. The cockpit stayed dead silent. Before long, the captain returned from the restroom and began pressing the door buzzer repeatedly. The cockpit is equipped with a video entry system. Whoever is inside can see who's at the door through a camera and unlock it with the flip of a switch. But no matter how many times the buzzer rang, co-pilot Andreas Lubitz never responded. It baffled everyone. He was clearly neither incapacitated nor unconscious. So why wouldn't he open the door? Soon the recording picked up the sound of heavy, desperate pounding against the cockpit door, growing louder and more frantic with each strike. It sent chills down everyone's spine. Then the ground proximity warning alarms began blaring inside the cockpit, one after another. About 10 seconds later, the recording cut off. After listening to the full cockpit voice recording, no one in the room could shake what they had just heard. Investigators finally put into words the conclusion they had dreaded most. The co-pilot had deliberately flown the plane into the mountain. French prosecutors wasted no time releasing this harrowing finding to the public. The announcement sent shockwaves far beyond France. It ignited a firestorm of public outrage and left the entire aviation industry and pilots around the world utterly stunned. Within just a few hours, multiple airlines rushed out emergency policies requiring that at least 2 crew members remain in the cockpit at all times, closing the dangerous loophole that had allowed a single pilot to be left alone at the controls. Investigators then reached out to Lubitz's family, friends, and acquaintances, desperately searching for answers, trying to understand why a 27-year-old with a seemingly bright future had chosen to end his life in such an unthinkable way, and why he had decided to take everyone on board down with him.